Welcome everybody to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, Tuesday, September 13th. I'll call the meeting to order and start roll call on the left.
Jim Gagnon.
Carla Desjardins.
Raj Shillick.
Brian Bray.
Mary Ann Chinati.
Okay, there are no alternates to appoint. Starting with public hearing A, New Stone Manufacturing and Distributors LLC requesting a special permit for earth excavation on property located at the end of Arneo Drive with an address of 0 Lake Street, Assessors Map 30, Block 113A, Lot 7, RA 60 zoning district.
For the record, my name is David Held. I'm a professional engineer and land surveyor with Provost and Rivero. Also here this evening is Charles Corson from New Stone. So if there's any questions pertaining to the specifics of the operation, he can maybe lend some more insight than I can. So this is a renewal application for a project which was approved by this commission in 2017. So we are approaching the 5-year permit time frame, which was granted back in 2017. So we're here for the renewal application. This is obviously a public hearing. The commission typically treats these as new applications. So the plans that have been submitted for this are basically an updated version of what was approved in 2017. We've updated the existing topography out there. We've located 3 monitor wells which were installed as conditions of approval in that 2017 application. And revised some of the notes and details to reflect some comments from your zoning enforcement officer. So the first sheet here on the plan set is an overall view.
Hold on one second. Ryan, do we have the copies of this plan so we can just get a closer look?
The first sheet is basically an overall view of the entire property, and you can see right here the delineated area, approximately 5.7 existing and proposed clear acres within the center of the property, where the actual stone removal activities are taking place. At the bottom of the sheet, which is the westerly side of the property, there's a 50-foot wide right-of-way, which leads out to the terminal end of Arneo Drive. And that's where all traffic enters and exits this site. The gravel driveway here, which comes out into the quarry area. So this quarry is specifically for the removal of architectural and decorative stone. So the removal quantities are fairly limited. That is reflected in the approval that was granted 5 years ago, as well as the notes that are included in this application on plan sheet number 2. Typically, there would be up to 2 trucks per day of material removed, with a maximum, I believe we're calling it 8 trucks per day. That's been a very conservative estimate. The amount of material that's been removed in the last 5 years is so limited that our topography doesn't really pick up much removal. And part of that is just the nature of how things happen out there. They blast a small area, they split the stone and remove it on trucks. Sometimes it's palletized on the site before it's removed. When you blast it, obviously you're opening up the weights. So there's waste material, which would be small pieces of stone, as well as soil overburden. And that fluffing from the blasting and the splitting operations is enough that we really can't pick up a substantial amount of material removal with the change in topography. Obviously, some of the grades have changed. They've slightly modified some access roads. There are some stockpiles of that waste material that have gotten a little bit bigger. Areas where stone has been taken out have gotten a little bit lower in grade. But overall, it's been a very limited amount of material that's been removed over the last 5 years. And that's fairly consistent with the typical operations there. In total, when the project is completed, it will result in the removal of about another 50,000 yards of stone material from the site, at which point in time, the area would be covered with soil fill, topsoil, and it would be stabilized with vegetation. And again, those details and notes are all identical to what was approved in the 2017 application. So I will just go through a few of the comments that Ryan had, and the revised plans that you have in front of you address those concerns. The first one, as I mentioned, part of the approval conditions of the 2017 application included the installation of some monitor wells, which are required by your zoning regulations. We did discuss at length during that 2017 application the fact that this is a hard rock excavation operation. It is not unconsolidated sand or gravel, and as such, monitor wells have limited usefulness in determining groundwater impacts. I'll stand by that, given the fact that they have continued excavation and there is no evidence of significant groundwater breakout from the active excavation phases or any known impacts to groundwater hydrology because of this project. Nonetheless, there were 3 monitor wells installed. The first one here at the northwesterly corner of the project is delineated as MW-1. Further to the south and on the upper end of where excavation will be proposed is MW2, and down at the low end of the operation where there is no further excavation proposed is MW3, and you can see here the upper side of the sheet number 2, we've included a recent measurement of groundwater in those wells. You'll note the elevations there. Again, I explained in a written response to Ryan's comments, I think they're of limited usefulness. The construction of the wells is basically a 4-inch PVC pipe with a cap installed in the ground. I can't tell if they were grouted into the stone. I think it's doubtful that they were, just knowing how they were put in. So I think what we're really looking at there is 5 years worth of precipitation falling on the ground, seeping in around the pipes, and then it has nowhere to go. So you're essentially looking at a water elevation in those pipes fairly close to ground elevation level. And if you go look at the active excavation phases, it's pretty clear that there's no groundwater coming out. So the wells are there to satisfy the zoning regulation requirements, but again, their usefulness is questionable at best. There is a comment about an expiration date on your signature block that has been revised on each of the 3 plan sheets with an expiration date in addition to the chairman's signature location. The previously approved plans did not have a designated fueling or equipment storage area. We have added a 30-foot by 30-foot proposed bituminous concrete paved area there where equipment can both be stored when it's not in operation and also where all fueling operations would take place. And that has been specified in the excavation notes here on sheet 2. All fueling operations should take place at that location. There was a comment about the proposed limit of excavation. So consistent with what was previously approved, we're calling for an elevation of 188 to be the bottom of the stone removal activities. And there was a little bit of conflict with the proposed contours that we were showing there. So we revised those and basically pushed the 188 elevation to the east, and that would basically be the result of filling activities that would take place with soil during the restoration of the site. There is a request for proposed truck routes. They were shown on the 2017 plans, and they were shown on these plans as well. But they are shown in some detail here on sheet number 3. So all the material that's removed from this site is taken back to the new stone processing facility in Sterling, and we've shown the typical truck route here going down Arneo Drive, then heading out on Lake Street to North Main Street and Goosup, and from there it would head east and into Sterling. And that's where all the processing would take place, whether it be cutting or mechanized splitting or anything like that. There's no processing on the excavation site other than just hammering some of the extremely large chunks into more manageable pieces that can be palletized or loaded up into a bucket by hand. There was a request for a performance bond estimate to cover E&S control and site restoration. And I'm not sure of the specific bond that the town might hold on the site right now. I think there is something in place. But nonetheless, we're proposing that a bond amount of $15,000 per disturbed acre be put in place to cover the restoration and E&S measures. So based on a total of 5.7 acres, which would be proposed to be cleared or exposed at any time, that would be $85,500 in total. The site is self-contained right now from a stormwater management perspective, so there's no imminent concern with erosion and sedimentation control based on our inspection of the site. That bond should be sufficient to cover the restoration measures. And that's the conclusion of my presentation. If you have any questions, the Commissioner Public may have.
Okay. This is a public hearing, so if you have a comment or question on this application, if you could step up to the microphone, name and address, and what your comment or question is.
How you doing? My name is Dave Colello. I live at 45 Arneo Drive. I am property right next to the quarry. I want to say that all the improvements that have been made they've been pretty good. The road's really a lot better. The driveway's a lot better. There's a few issues as far as the maintenance goes on the driveway. There's an issue with the tracking pad. The tracking pad is probably getting old now. It's filled up. The water's running over the tracking pad. It's going down the road. There's dirt all over the sides of the road. It should be picked up. Because the weeds are tall on the side of the road, it's just a matter of time before it covers all the blacktop. As far as the people working up there, the people that are working up there lately are really pretty good. They're really respectable. Truck driver is really, pretty good. Outside of a few trucks that are like subcontractors maybe, or different names on the trucks, they come in and out of there. They go up and down that road kind of fast. There's a concern with there's apartments down there, and there are small children. They don't realize these trucks are going up and down there. And like I said, but the guys that do work there regularly, they're pretty respectful. And in the past, there was a few incidents, but that was from a different group of people that were working there. That was when Charles Sr. was alive. He had a different crew of people there working there. I was assaulted in my own driveway. We had some pretty bad times with them, but things seem to have changed for the better. Like I said, there's a few potholes that are starting now that they should probably be addressed before they get worse. But all in all, it's been better, a lot better. I've been with Brian a few times with complaints about working on Saturdays. We talked to them. It happened one time. I haven't seen it happen again. Also, the equipment trying to go up and down the road that aren't registered, payloaders and whatnot. They were told to put them on a low bed. That has happened a few times. I talked to Ryan about it. I assumed he talked to them. I haven't seen it happen lately. It has its issues, but seems to be working. Okay.
Thank you. Is there a maintenance plan for the tracking pad?
I don't believe there's anything specific, but obviously it does require maintenance over time. So.
And then erosion control for runoff?
So again, it's a self-contained site right now, so there really is no specific erosion control measure shown on the plan. One really needed right now. What we're showing there for perimeter controls would be applicable during restoration. When they are doing some of that filling and some of the berms that are around it would have to be removed due to the proposed grading.
This is a public hearing, so any other comments or questions from audience members? Any comments, questions from staff?
All my comments have been addressed. We do have some suggested conditions of approval based on Mr. Crow's statements and
Okay, would you want to read those into the record, please?
sure, all of them.
Yes, please, since you added some new ones. I don't have them.
So do you want to leave this for deliberation or do you want to do it?
It would have to be read into the public hearing.
So suggested conditions of approval, any equipment not registered for highway use must be transported to and from the site via truck or trailer. The paved fueling storage, the paved fueling/storage pad is to be installed within the 2022 calendar year. The special permit record and Mylar plans must be recorded with the town clerk prior to receiving a zoning permit to begin or continue operations. The performance bond of $85,500 for erosion and sediment control and site restoration must be submitted to the zoning officer prior to receiving a zoning permit to begin or continue operations. The proposed truck route must be followed, utilizing the side streets of Clell Ave, Parent Hill Road, and Victoria Drive is prohibited. Access drive to be maintained in good drivable condition, and the anti-tracking pad to be maintained in good condition.
Thank you.
Can I say something?
Yep, it's the public hearing's open. The microphone is yours. Just name and address and what your comment is.
Ann Colello, 45 Arneo Drive. I would appreciate a notice knowing when they are going to blast, because I know they've blasted a few times, and I see it must be no dig or whatever, there's signs of like painting in the road saying they're going to do that, but we're not notified being neighbors to this. Sorry, so I would appreciate that.
Blasting permit is done through fire marshal?
Yes, please.
Okay. Do you know the notification process for that?
To my knowledge, there is not one required.
Okay. Would the applicant be willing to just notify the neighbors when blasting is going to occur?
They have to do that.
Would it be easier to notify the planning and engineering department and then, rather than relying on the property owner to keep track of who might be living there at any particular time?
Well,
It's always living there.
Or
Not that
are
it's
you going to
any easier
post
for
it?
you, but
I mean, posting of some kind of notice.
well, I mean, either they do it or I do it, it's putting the burden on me.
Yeah.
I mean, they could just post a notice near the site.
how about if we just agree to post a sign at the entrance to the site? That way-
As long as there's a notice that neighbors can see that it's going to be occurring.
I think it's the Colellos that are the closest ones living there, so it's visible to them along the right of way for a certain purpose.
In the
3-day
past,
notice, maybe?
they've knocked on our door and told us that they were gonna blast, but the past couple of times, there was no notice, and all of a sudden the house is rocking, you know.
Okay.
It would be nice to have a notice that, you know, yes, we are gonna blast today, and that's all we need to do, just tell us, you know, let you know at the door.
When they let you know when
They have done that in the past, though.
Okay. So there could be something posted that would just, I think, alleviate that issue. Go ahead and just state your name.
Hi, my name is Charles Corson. To help address some of these issues with the quarry and stuff like that, the blasters are supposed to notify everyone. That's their responsibility. Not mine,
No,
it's theirs.
I'm not
No,
saying
I get it. You know,
It was.
Okay, we're not going to have a back and forth, just let him.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not a law enforcement, and I can't, just because, you know, planning is only says, well, they have to drive this route. I agree with you, and I've told them, but I'm not their boss. Somebody else is.
Where are these trucks going to?
They're going back to my shop.
Well, then,
But they don't work for me, and they're getting weighed, and then they're going to their shop. So I have no control over that truck or how it drives.
Are the roads restricted by police commission?
they are not.
So there's no weight restriction on roads or?
Well, they have to be under a certain amount of pound weight.
Sure.
Driving, but these are other companies that are doing business with me. I can't control.
So with a condition, the enforceability of that condition would be under what jurisdiction?
just a special permit.
So if a truck was found to be not following the rule, then it would be a warning. And then repeated violations would result in coming back to the committee?
It's up to you if you want to.
Okay. We can consider during deliberation.
Yeah, because I have no way of controlling the truck.
Thank you for sharing.
You know, so we try to stick to the routes. We do sub out a lot of trucks that come back to my yard, and then there's trucks that do not come back to my yard. They come back, they get weighed, and they go to their yards. And those are the trucks that probably more than likely we're having the issues with. They've all been told what routes to take. They've all been driven there. Well, most of them this year, since I've been taking over, I've driven them the way they need to get there. So they followed me over, and they're, you know, the triaxles and stuff. They have to follow the route, but if the guys see a shortcut, they take it. I have no control over that. So it's really hard for me to enforce that.
Go ahead.
Do you have paperwork that these truckers get? Do you hand them paperwork?
Yes, I have a weight, all I have is a weight ticket.
A weight ticket?
Weight
There's
ticket.
nothing that could be put on that paperwork telling them what route they should be taking?
I could put it on it, but again, I can't enforce it. I mean, it's like me telling you that you have to turn right out here no matter what. I can't enforce it, even though you should be
I'm
doing
not
it.
asking you to enforce it, I'm just asking if you could make it more available to the truck drivers, that's all.
They all know. Every
How
truck,
do they know?
because I tell them.
Verbally tell them?
I verbally tell them, and they follow me over. All the truck drivers have followed me over since I've taken over to the quarry.
They, what, I'm sorry?
Followed me.
Oh, follow.
They
Okay.
followed me over in my pickup, the route that we're supposed to take. Whether they do it or not on the way back, I have no control. And even on, once they know the route, whether they do it on the way there, they don't, because they're like the second time around, I don't have them follow me, they know where it is. I don't know if they're actually taking it.
So Ryan, was this resident complaints that brought this issue to attention, or?
I can't recall if we had any on that particular road. Side roads or not.
Okay. All right.
The other issue I have with Ryan talking about removing loaders up and down the streets. I understand that that's not supposed to be done. I know the rules, but a lot of people here don't know the rules of MSHA, which I am governed, the quarry is governed under the rules of MSHA. And MSHA this year has told me, they both came in, I don't try to see it. They've come in here and to the quarry and they fine you for a drop of a hat. But needless to say, they are the ones that requested the loader be removed off property, and they're one brought in immediately. And if I don't do that, my fines are almost tripled. Now, I don't know about you, but if you get pulled over, you get a speeding ticket, it's done. You get $75 or whatever it is, it's done. But not with those guys. I've actually, this year, that's the only thing that, I agree with Ryan, that should be brought on a little bit. But I'm trying to keep these doors of the company open right now. It is literally struggling. But when those guys hit you up with 3 times the fines, you're forced to do things you shouldn't have to do. So, and MSHA has that power. They are over the federal government. There's nobody else that can supersede. They supersede everybody's powers here. So, when you're in that kind of boat, I don't know who can get a truck at 4 o'clock in the afternoon to move a piece of equipment. And that's what I was faced with this year.
Okay, so that was a very specific circumstance under which you were not able to get a trailer. So it was
Yeah.
violate their rule or violate the town rule. You chose to violate town versus fed.
So what,
Understood. But under normal circumstances,
Normal circumstances.
everything
I've
should
always
be
had
by
trucks.
trailer.
I moved all my excavators in and out of there with the trailer. I moved other pieces of equipment in and out of there with the trailer.
Okay,
This
so
one time.
we set the basic. So if a circumstance comes and you make a decision, then if it's a violation, then you're weighing violations. So we'll just leave it at that.
I just wanted to be known
Sure.
what MSHA can do to people.
Yep, understood. Thank you. Any additional questions or comments from board members? Okay, and audience?
Academy Central Village, I have 2 questions. Is this a 5-year renewal? And also, how long does this project last to final remediation?
So it is 5-year renewal.
Well, unless you set a different renewal date, yes. They're always 5 years.
Yeah. And what was the phasing of the project and the expected timeline to completion?
I mean, if the removal continues at the current rate, I don't know, maybe 15-year lifespan. It's all kind of market dependent, and it's obviously dependent on limitations that you might put on how much could be moved in a day or a week or a year. But it's not like it's a gravel pit where there's a huge quantity of material coming out of there every year.
Any other comments from, yes? Step up to the mic, say your name for the record, please.
Yeah, my name again?
Yep. Reporter can't tell who you are.
Well, 45 on Hill Drive. One other thing about the road, it's a big improvement and whatnot, but it also brings up traffic that doesn't know that that road is a driveway. They come up there at 40, 50 miles an hour sometimes. There's no signage to stop them. Excuse me. There should be something there at the end of where the town road ends to notify them that because like I said, they come up there at night, there's no lights, and then they're trying to turn around, they turn around in the dark, they're spinning their tires in my lawn, trying to get out of there. But like I said, there's no signage to tell them there's anything different, so maybe it's something that ought to be looked at that.
Have you called the police department regarding these problems that you've been having? Have you
Yeah,
said
oh, yeah, and
anything?
then it gets worse. You know, when you call the police department and somebody gets arrested for driving equipment over the road, well, then you got people driving at you, they're giving you the finger, and they're shaking their fist at you, they want to beat you up, and so sometimes you're just better off to let the little road rage dissolve, because it just goes out of hand.
As a commission,
I brought it to
we're
the
not
cops.
responsible, is all I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
We're responsible for that.
The police
That's why
is-
we have police in the town.
Yeah, and I brought it to them, and and then it just turned, it gets they overreact. I brought them. I told them, they're driving equipment. They catch them driving equipment that's unregistered, and the guy that's driving the equipment, he gets the ticket, and he's got to go to court, where he's got a bad taste in his mouth. He hates me. He don't even know me. This is my home. He just comes here to work. And then I meet these people on the street, they stop, shaking their fist at me, they want to beat me up, really,
So question, because I haven't driven there recently, is there a dead-end road sign?
At the very end of the road, at the beginning of the road, there's a little sign that says dead end. There used to be a bigger placard at the beginning of the road, and somebody had gone through Mortimer Avenue and wiped it all out, and
Okay.
that's all, been gone.
So when it comes to road signage, that is an issue for
Police commission.
police
Police
commission.
commission?
So if there's a larger sign required for visibility in the area, then that would have to be brought before the police commission. As for the site, is there any signage signifying like private property or like private driveway starts here or anything like
I
that?
put up
No, but
signs
it's
for that.
pretty clear from the size of the driving path that you reach the end of the road and you're on the driveway.
Okay.
And then there's a locked gate at the actual entrance to the site.
Yeah, that's at the very end, but like I said, just that one stretch that's black out there, there's no signage, and it goes from Bruce's house to my house, and it's pretty.
So I would just suggest if there was a sign that was previously in existence and it's no longer there, we're not the avenue to assist with that issue. Yeah. All right. Any other comments or questions? Yes.
Josh Kinzer, 32 Ralph Street. Are there any concerns for well water as far as, I've had a couple of neighbors complain from years back, stating that when there was blasting on weekends, one of the wells went dry. I didn't know if that was any issue with my well.
So there are 3 monitoring wells. What was the data that was provided to you, Ryan? Because you said you had requested it.
It's on page 2, I believe.
Okay. So they did put monitoring wells in to evaluate that issue. So there's been no reported issues. Is that right, Ryan?
Well, these don't actually show the groundwater. So I don't think they've drilled down to groundwater. The water in the wells, it's not taking in water through the bedrock. It's just surface water that's
Surface.
infiltrated in. so they're not into the water table there.
But you've had no resident complaints about well issues?
You know, at the last hearing back in 2017,
I remember
there were
we
some
talked about this a
concerns,
lot.
but I don't recall enough of it to speak to.
Right, thank you. Any other comments or questions from the audience? Comments or questions from staff or board members? Okay, seeing and hearing none, I'll entertain a motion on the public hearing.
So moved.
Second. Motion to close by Roz, second by June, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Public hearing is closed. Moving on to item B, the Plainfield Planning and Zoning Commission proposing a text amendment to section 20 of the zoning regulations, application fee schedule. Ryan, would you review the summary, please?
Sure. We now have a new permitting software. We lost our old software to the cyber attack, and we had to purchase new. The new software comes with a cost of $10 per application. So we are proposing to add $10 to every application fee. If you turn to the next page, you can see down, about 3/4 of the way down, adding a $10 processing fee to every application. And the other thing that I have proposed is the amendment of fee schedule, which is 20.3. That's a new section of regulations. And it states, the Planning and Zoning Commission may by majority vote adopt amendments to the schedule of reasonable fees from time to time. What that does is eliminate the need to go back for a text amendment anytime there's a change.
Gentlemen, if you need to have a conversation, please take it outside just because the microphones are really touchy up here. Thank you. Go ahead, Ryan.
So that language allows the commission to simply review and modify the application fee schedule without having to propose a text amendment. And that was recommended by the town attorney.
Any comments or questions on this application? Any comments or questions from staff or board members? Okay, hearing and seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by June,
Second.
second by Roz, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Public hearing is closed. Moving on to item C, the moratorium pertaining to cannabis covering all uses as stated in Public Act number 21-1, Senate Bill number 1201, an act concerning responsible and equitable regulation of adult use cannabis. Ryan, you want to give this summary as well, please?
Sure. So last year, the state did approve the sale of cannabis, sale and growing and manufacturing of cannabis. In the legislation, they allow towns to regulate it or outright ban it. What we are currently proposing is a moratorium on any applications. That is a 6-month moratorium that allows the commission to review and potentially adopt regulations pertaining to cannabis.
Any comments or questions on this application? Step up to the microphone, name and address, please.
Trav Harmon, Victoria Drive, Noosa. I have a business in Worcester, Massachusetts, where, as you know, it's been legalized for many years. It is an extreme amount of money that brings it into local townships. Currently, I worked with people and met with people who have legalized in Thompson, Putnam, and Woodstock will be having their planning and zoning very shortly as well to discuss it as well. The amount of tax revenue that comes into the local area, including even ancillary, people who don't touch the product, but people who touch the products that touch the products, is in the extreme. Electricians are always busy, plumbers, all types of businesses, from HR, compliance, the whole works. It is extremely growth-orientated, pardon the pun, but I've yet to find a single one of them fail. I've also seen them always bring on more employees. So this town has a lot of properties that can be used. They can be used for vertical growth. They can be used for horizontal to meet with compliance. But there is no reason to hinder that industry just because you may not understand it. It has been well matured in surrounding cities and surrounding states, and others have cleaned up regulations that did not work well. So instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, learn from others and adopt regulations. Have a hearing on it. It is very, very well maintained, controlled, and in the next couple of years, compliance guidelines will be even more stringent than even DOD. And I work with both. So there is zero reason to hinder this industry or to reject any applications. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on this application?
Good evening, Paul Sweet, 260 New Road. I favor the moratorium for the simple reason it's consistent with past history when things like this, whether it's solar panels or strip clubs or any of these type of things, we've needed time to examine and write up regulations that were, you're not prohibiting it, but you're regulating it. And that's, I think it's 6 months is a fair amount of time to let the commission work on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on this application?
Kevin Cunningham, 405 Moosa Pond Road. I would be in favor of the moratorium. I think it's prudent for this board and also for the Board of Selectmen to look at this. And 6 months is not that much of a time frame to do so. There are other towns, 97 of them throughout the state of Connecticut, who have already gone through this process, and a majority of those have done a moratorium as well. I would also like to say that we are different than Massachusetts, where the tax structure is being given to each municipality. We would only receive 3% of sales. Those 3% of sales also are restricted at how you are to spend those 3% of sales. Most of the time what you have to do is, I'll give an example, if you are in a facility in Moravian, that 3% has to go to that facility as you're upgrading the sidewalk or upgrading the lights to that area. That's it. So I think that we should look at that a little further and see what it might bring to the town of Plainfield or not. And the moratorium for 6 months I think is appropriate. Thank you.
Question.
What do you need?
How long has it been since the state of Connecticut sent this information down to the towns?
This has been maybe about a year.
A year?
Yeah.
And we're looking for another 6-month moratorium?
Yeah, we haven't done anything
We
with it
haven't
yet.
developed regulations yet.
I know we haven't.
But we also have to talk to the police department about how they would be able to handle it as well.
So even though the state passed legislation in July of '21, there were no permits issued. They are now starting to implement permits.
They're just starting now.
Yes.
So we're looking for another 6 months.
I think that's reasonable.
We do.
Thank you.
Yes.
May I have additional comment?
Yep. State your name and your comment.
Victoria Drive, Worcester, Connecticut. Based upon that statement, right now, earlier this year, there was 15,600 additional licenses, half of them for equity and so forth. There was only 6 permits handed out. That's a 2,600 to 1 demand. So the demand is in the extreme. It's fold, not percentage. It's 2,600 to 1 applications to 1 permit. The Worcester Police Department, when they were legalizing in Thompson, the people on that planning and zoning did their research in detail. And the police up there absolutely love them because there's no issues at all. They've never had an issue called there. There's actually a bud bar up in Worcester similar to an alcohol bar. It is done very well, and the police have an extremely low rate to call them. I see no reason to continue the moratorium. Sure.
Just to be sure that the 6 permits, only 6 permits throughout the whole state of Connecticut, is that what you said?
Yeah,
Thus far.
that's fine.
But regardless, part of the research of the 6-month period is to look at what other towns have put in for regulations, so that we are looking for consistency.
Right, so it's to do research, it's for the commission to digest and decide what they would like to do.
Thank you for the clarification. Any other comments or questions on this application?
Colella on Huntington Drive. I didn't realize that this was on the docket for tonight. It was sort of interesting and different in some ways. Been a resident in Plainfield my whole life. box store, which we'll see what happens. It's going to open, it's going to drive a lot of traffic through our town again. Once again, getting that impact there. We have a lot of dollar stores in town. I see very close. I see this as a new and creative, maybe industry. Whether it's this opportunity or other opportunities that are out there, I just hope that our zoning committee, please be open-minded to different forms of traffic and businesses to bring to town, and sometimes we get creative.
And just to clarify for the public, during the 6-year period, 6-month period, we would be developing regulations that would have to come before the public again. So the moratorium is allowing time for that process. So just to clarify, any text that we develop would come before the public again. So nothing gets adopted without the public hearing process and that aspect.
Sure.
So that'll be considered again.
To add to that, of course, we trust you guys to make an informed and rational decision as well. So if you feel like the diligence needs to be made, that's why you're here, representing us. So, we put faith.
For the record, read your first, last name, and address, please.
I'm Eric Clello, 72 Huntington.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the audience or board or staff? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion on the public hearing. Motion by Roz to close public hearing. Second by June. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Public hearing is closed. MD, Norwich LLC, Western Express of 1293 Norwich Road, requesting special permit to expand truck parking onto 1279 Norwich Road and Lot 15 Toper Road, Assessors Map 5, Block 4Z, Lots 13, 14, and 15.
For the record, my name is Bob Bluger. I'm with CLA Engineers representing Western Express. And also with me representing Western Express is Bruce Poser, who's Operations Manager, and Paul Sweet. I was here about a year ago when the site, to get the site into compliance after a zone change, and they needed a site plan approval. What's happened since then is they purchased for 1.9 acres of land. Is everyone familiar with where the site is? They purchased 1.9 acres of land along Toper Road.
And actually, if you could just state it for the public, for anyone who wasn't at our previous hearings, so they're aware.
All right, so the site is located between Rood Road and Toper Road, across this, on the same side as Toper Road. It's currently located about 200 feet from north of Toper Road and 1,500 feet south of Rood Road, to give you bearings. It's a trucking terminal. It's a trucking maintenance terminal. They maintain tractors and trailers there. And if you've been by there, you've noticed it's always pretty full. So they've been in the process of purchasing this adjacent parcel and changing the zone. They changed it, I think it was a commercial zone. They changed it to industrial zone to match their existing site. And that's this strip that's shaded here. And then it fronts Toper Road, also has a little frontage on Route 12 and connects back to their parcel. It's 1.9 acres, and they'd like to expand their parking and lay-down area for the trailers, about 1.6 acres of that, 1.9 acres. This will give them more room to maneuver vehicles around. It's not intended to create more traffic or bring more, it's really, it's just overcrowded there. So, what is proposed here is an impervious surface. It's either be millings or pavement. The stormwater created by this new pavement is being handled by an infiltration system that's been designed to store the 100-year storm. The soils here are really good for infiltrating. We've done tests on them and confirmed that. So there'll be no additional stormwater leaving the site. And as I said, the staff has reviewed this, and they didn't have any technical comments. It also went to state DOT, and they also reviewed it and concurred that there was nothing proposed in there right away. So they did not have any comments. They reviewed the drainage in addition to that. We are requesting a waiver for the buffer requirement in lieu of a transportation which we took care of. And if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
This is a public hearing, so if there's anyone in the audience with a comment or question on this application, please step up to the microphone.
I'm sorry, can you say it again, please?
Sandy Condo, sorry, it's a condo.
It's a little closer.
I actually live right behind the end of his property, and I'm just curious if he's going to be, is it going to be tarred or is it going to be gravel? Because I'm wondering if my house is going to be full of dirt.
It was proposed as double ground millings for pavement, which double ground millings, so pretty much act more or less like pavement, but it'll be pavement, so it'll be
So
pavement.
are trucks going to be coming in and out of that lot, or is that just becoming parking?
It's,
So could you just point to the entrance?
Yeah, the entrance
And
is right
I'm correct
here.
that there's a fence along the entire length of Toper Road, so there is no entrance on and off Toper Road, is that
where's
correct?
your house?
Right at the very end.
This house? Here?
No, come down.
It's over
Down
here.
past the town drainage.
Oh,
The other
okay,
side
sorry.
of the tree line.
Oh, it's right spot, okay. Yeah, so the entrance will not change, it's the same entrance in and out. What will change is you'll see a fence along Toper Road. There was a house here that was
Yep.
demoed already, and that area will be paved.
So that area will be paved.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And the trees that are at the end of that lot and are in the town owns the pond next door, but then I'm the next house. Are you removing?
Nothing's
any of those
happening to the
Okay.
trees. This is all within, the town's parcel is wetlands, and we're staying out of the 100-foot wetland buffer, so
So there'll
nothing's
be a
happening.
buffer for all of your noise and all.
There's
of
nothing
that.
happening if we're 100 feet away from that town parcel.
Okay, and there will be additional lighting?
There's no additional lighting proposed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those are my questions.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from audience? Comments or questions from staff or board members?
So from staff, all my questions have been addressed. All the town engineer's comments have been addressed. So one thing to note is that as a request for a waiver has been submitted for the 25-foot required buffer, the commission does have to discuss a vote on it during deliberation. And it is pretty commonplace for the commission to waive that buffer in lieu of a fence and some landscaping.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing and seeing none, I'll entertain a motion on public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close.
Okay, motion by June, second by Roz, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Public hearing is closed. Moving on to the regular meeting, I call the meeting to order. Additions, corrections to the agenda. So we do have an item to add under new business. Item B, Lyman Development Tour. So I would ask for a motion to add that as item B under new business.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by June,
Second.
second by Roz, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, added as item B. Citizen participation. This is opportunity to address the committee on something that was not part of the public hearing process. Okay, hearing and seeing none, moving on to unfinished old business. Item A, New Stone Manufacturing and Distributors, LLC, requesting special permit for earth excavation on property located at the end of Arneo Drive with an address of 0 Lake Street, Assessor's Map 30, Block 113A, Lot 7, RA60 zoning district. So items for discussion.
Monitoring when they're going to blast, notifying these people when they're going to blast. Is there any way to think of, do we have?
So the owner did say that the blasters are supposed to be notifying. So if they don't notify, that would have to be reported
To
Do
the,
you have
to the
permits?
zoning enforcement.
Did they have permits to put blasters?
Sorry, we're in the deliberation part, so the public hearing's over, so public comments are not allowed during this portion of the meeting.
okay, so I guess I'll do this. So they will notify Ryan
So if
if
there's-
they're not being notified about
So if
blast.
there's any issue on the site, public should call zoning enforcement.
And also the fire marshal, because the fire marshal is one of the issues of blasting permits.
Right. And then they would notify the owner that the blasting company was not following the protocol they set forward.
And the police department if there's trucking problems on the street, right?
If there was a traffic issue,
Yeah. Okay.
but that wouldn't be part of our conditions.
No, it's not. I see.
So we had the conditions as Ryan read them. So is there any modifications or changes to the conditions as read? So when making a motion, if you want to adopt the conditions as read, then you should make that in your motion.
Can I add that the people should be calling Ryan into this?
That is not a condition of the application, because that is on the public to choose to do if they see fit.
Okay.
So,
All right, yeah. Just making it clear.
okay. Any other items for discussion? Any other notes from staff?
Okay, that storage that has to be repaired or is there an issue?
Tracking pad maintenance was one of the conditions Ryan read.
Okay, you read that, okay.
I think you were talking to the fueling pad.
The fuel.
So there's not,
Some-
there's not currently a fueling pad. They have proposed a paid fueling pad, which one of the conditions of approval is that that be installed sometime during this year, so by mid-November, because that is when it's closed.
So any other items for discussion? Okay. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion on the application.
I'd like to put it forward and approve it with all the conditions that we grant.
Okay, so I have a motion to approve with the conditions as read by Ryan.
Second.
I have a second by Roz. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Application is approved with those conditions. Moving on to item B, Planning and Zoning Commission proposing text amendment to Schedule 20 of the zoning regulations, application fee schedule. I think this was pretty straightforward. Are there any items for deliberation on that request?
I'm still concerned with the 6 months.
Hold on, we're talking about the application fee schedule, adding the $10.
The $10.
That's okay.
Didn't get it.
Yep, skipping, that's all right. So application fee schedule, the additional $10, and then the ability of the commission to change the fee schedule without having it go as a text amendment. Is that common practice, Ryan, in other regulations?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sure. Is it common practice to allow discretion to change the fee schedule without coming back again?
Yes, that was a recommendation by our town attorney.
Okay, perfect. So any other items to discuss on that? Okay, hearing none. And remember, this does need an effective date. So in your motion, you should set an effective date of October 1st. All right, so I'll entertain a motion on that.
I'll make a motion to approve with all conditions read and as of October 1st.
Effective date October 1st. I have a motion by Roz,
Second.
a second by June. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so the text amendment is approved with an effective date of October 1st. Item C, moratorium pertaining to cannabis covering all uses as stated in Public Act number 21-1, Senate Bill number 1201, an act concerning responsible and equitable regulation of adult use cannabis.
Okay.
So this is 6 months so that we can develop regulations for the use.
I understand, and I am a reasonable person. And I will vote for the 6 months, but I won't if it comes back again. So,
You should not predetermine yourself on an application, so
Okay, well.
don't.
Just so the commission is clear, we do not have to run it out to 6 months. If we come up with
Correct.
regulations in 2 months, we can take care of it in 2 months, and the moratorium goes away.
All right.
If
Correct.
for some reason there's a holdup and we need more time, we can take and renew the moratorium in 6 months with another public hearing.
The moratorium allows us to develop the regulations so that when applications come forward, they're all being treated the same. If there was no moratorium with no regulations, then that could create issues.
So the moratorium stops any application coming in that has to do with cannabis. If we have no moratorium, no regulations on cannabis, it is regulated as other similar uses. So retail sales will be regulated as retail sales. Growing operations will be regulated as agriculture. Processing regulated as either agriculture or manufacturing.
Which you figured out.
I in particular want to find out more about the taxing and how, if we're only going to make 3% on the,
Well, we have to stay within our
Right.
statutory, so I'm not
But
sure that that might be
we
within
need
our
to do more
statutory.
research.
But I think looking at what other towns are doing is appropriate, so I will say I'm in favor of the moratorium on this application. So if there's no other items and this would also need an effective date,
Yes.
and that would also be October 1st, first available. So it'd be October 1st, 6 months. So if there's no other items for discussion, I'll entertain a motion on this application.
make a motion to pass, to approve the 6-month moratorium.
With the effective date of October 1st.
October 1st, well, okay, we start with that date?
Yep, first
And
day
then
of the
go-
month.
And then go.
And then 6 months.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
All right, so I have a motion by June to approve with the October 1st effective date. Do I have a second? I will second the motion. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? One opposed, so the motion passes 2-1. Okay. Item D, Plainfield Garages and Storage LLC requesting site plan approval. I believe we're waiting on inland wetlands review of this, so we'll have to continue that to October.
That is correct.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to continue to October.
So moved.
A motion by Roz,
Second?
second by June. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, continue to October. Item C, Bubbles Laundry Spa requesting map amendment to rezone 0 Putnam Road from RA 60 to Commercial 2. This does require a public hearing, so I will entertain a motion to schedule the public hearing.
I'll make that motion to schedule the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, so at our next regularly scheduled meeting, October,
13th, I believe.
Yes.
next regularly scheduled meeting in October. So motion by June,
Second.
second by Roz, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Public hearing is scheduled for October. Item F, Norwich LLC Western Express of 1293 Norwich Road, requesting special permit to expand trucking parking onto 1279 Norwich Road, Lot 15, Coker Road, Assessors Map 5, Block 4C, Lots 13, 14, and 15. Any items for discussion on this application? Okay, hearing none. I'll entertain a motion.
They definitely need room there to turn around. So I'll make a motion to grant this.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
we need to act on the waiver request.
Oh, the waiver, I'm sorry, thank you. So the waiver request was for the buffer zone. So ordinarily, there's a 25-foot vegetative buffer. They are requesting a waiver because they're putting a stockade fence and an additional 10-foot vegetation.
So there are proposed lollipop crab apples, which are currently across the front of the property, and that will be down the side of Token Road and in front of this parking area along Norwich Road.
And it's a 6-foot white vinyl stockade fence. So item 1, does the commission wish to grant that waiver?
Yes.
So I'll entertain a motion.
Yes, make a motion to
Grant the waiver.
Grant the waiver.
grant the waiver.
Sorry. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, waiver is granted. So now I'll entertain a motion on the application.
Madam Chair, can I just direct you to the suggested conditions of approval?
Would you read them again for me, please?
The
I'm sorry, my memory.
Mylars are to be submitted to the planning and zoning office for the planning and zoning commission chair to sign, and must then be recorded by the applicant in the town clerk's office, along with a special permit record. Town engineering review fees to be determined, minus a $500 initial deposit, are to be paid within 30 days of billing and prior to recording the Mylars. A zoning permit is required prior to the beginning of the site improvements. The above conditions must be completed prior to the issuance of a zoning permit. The site must be completed per plan. A certificate of zoning compliance is required prior to utilizing the improved area. An as-built survey of the improvements, including the stormwater system, is required to receive the CZC. The cash bond may be submitted for landscaping if the CZC is requested outside of the growing season or during particularly dry conditions. Should future town engineer services be needed for this project, the applicant shall be responsible for the cost incurred to the town.
Okay. Any questions on the conditions as read? Okay. I'll entertain a motion on the application.
I'll make a motion to approve with the suggested conditions as written.
All right. I have a motion to approve with conditions.
Effective date of October.
Don't need an effective date on that.
Second.
I have a second by June. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, application is approved with those conditions as read. Moving on to new business. Item A, Better Built Basement requesting special permit for section 12.28, 690 square foot accessory dwelling in basement of 74 Gendron Road, and this does require a public hearing. So I'll entertain a motion to schedule the public hearing. Motion by Roz, second by June. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Public hearing has been scheduled for our next meeting in October.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night. Moving on to item B, Lyman Development Corps requesting a 2-lot subdivision of property located at 226, 230, and 238 Norwich Road, Assessors Map 15, Block 56, Lot 7 and 7A, C1 zoning district. Do we have the applicant here this evening?
No, they requested to continue.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to continue to our meeting in October.
I'll second that.
Motion by Roz to continue, second by June. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, continue to October. Review and act on the minutes of the July 12th meeting. Were there any amendments or changes to the minutes of the meeting? None that I noted. All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll make that motion. Accept the minutes.
Motion by June to accept.
Second.
Second by Roz. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting minutes are approved. Moving on to correspondence.
We did have one correspondence. This was from the town of Brooklyn. They have an applicant looking to do what's called glamping, which is glorified camping, I guess. And they are proposing a text amendment to the regulations to allow for that.
All right, report from zoning enforcement.
Okay. So 14 Canterbury Road for junk vehicles and equipment on property. Progress has been made, and we are not proceeding to court just yet on that. Hopefully they will continue that progress. 3244 Norwich Road, Sweet LLC, the old Josie Savings. This is currently before the court system, so we are making progress. Car Wash Road Extension, which is PHH Mortgage Corporation for a junkyard. They have been making progress fixing up the house and removing items from the property. 256 Spalding Road, RV as dwelling, and also commercial trailers. This is on hold at the moment because it is in the probate system, and we are waiting for administrator to be appointed to the property or to the estate.
Excuse me, Ryan. Ladies and gentlemen in the lobby, if you can hear me, I can hear you. Please take it. Thank you. All right, go ahead, Ryan. I'm sorry.
So this property is now in the hands of probate, and we are waiting for them to 90 Moose Pond Road, in Stanley. This is the trees that are deceased. And back in July, they were having a landscaper review it. I think they're waiting for the drought to break. So hopefully they're going to move forward. I'll contact them to see how they can help. 552 Small Rock Road for junkyard. We are moving this to the court system. And actually it is before the court system right now. We have Zero Sterling Road, Havercross Trust for a possible camper as dwelling. I did send out a warning letter to this property owner and have not heard back from them. I have to send out a certified letter. 136 Black Hill Road, Ross Materials, Strategic Commercial Realty for potential compliance issues. I did go out with Mr. Rawson to do an inspection. We are reviewing all the conditions of approval. If there happens to be some sort of an issue, which at this point in time I'm not sure there is, they will work with us to correct it. South Katy Lane, Lot 13A, Central Cycle Club. We have been receiving complaints from a neighbor about them using the upper parking lot, upper field, for parking of campers and race support vehicles, parking a bikes up there, working on them. And most of the lot was not designated as that. We have tried working with them and have not received compliance, so a cease and desist was sent out on August 29th. So we're waiting for that to play out. That is it.
All right. A report from Planning and Development.
Other than my written report, just a couple of updates regarding, number one, the Interroyal Brownfield grant. The Board of Selectmen last night adopted a resolution to apply for round 16 for continued assessment, abatement, and remediation over at the site. So that grant is due on the 23rd, which is next Friday, so I'm working to get that completed so we can get it submitted. The ECLB DECD Brownfield grant for the former command properties. Mark Burno has been permanently assigned as the project manager up at DECD. He had a very lengthy discussion with Wayne Bugden of the Land Bank regarding Ned Moore, who retired in May. He was in the process of finalizing the funding agreement with the state, but he never got that done. So Wayne went over with Mark the changes that needed to be made. So it's anticipated that document will be fully executed in the near future, and an RFP for a consultant will be put out by the end of fall. Business of the Year nominations, there's nomination forms up on the website, on the town's Facebook page, and there's hard copies available at Town Hall. There's also some on the chair in front here.
Did you have a question?
No, I was just wondering how much longer with the paperwork is it going to see action, do you think?
Where?
At command.
Well, the RFP will go out for the consultant, and that will probably give respondents 2 months to submit a proposal. And then the proposals will have to be reviewed and the committee interview selected consultants firms, and then the project can begin. So I would estimate March, April timeframe, they'd actually start work.
Actually physically be on the lot doing something?
To start doing assessment, yeah.
Not cleaning, assessment.
No,
Oh,
cleanup
just
is the very
assessment.
last. Cleanup is the last.
Yeah, well, so just
But you
to
have to assess
it?
before you can clean up, because you need to know what needs to be cleaned up.
Just like, for how many years?
Yeah, well, it's like
Yeah.
Interroyal.
I know.
We'll get there.
All right. Next item is other, which I see nothing to add to other. So, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion by June and a second by Roz. All in favor?